5 points, guys. 5 points.
5 whole points?
From his Primaris glow up, he went up 5 points.
Auspex scan initiated. I'm picking up a podcast arriving. Wait. Designation. Forge the narrative.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Forge the Narrative. My name is Paul, your host. We are the Bell All Souls podcast. I'm joined by Adam Camilleri.
Evening, everybody.
And Red Powell.
What up?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and 5-star reviews and all that kind of stuff. We're going to be talking about all kind of stuff. The Black Templars got a codex coming out pretty soon. We're going to be talking about that.
Yeah, I'm keen to talk to it.
Adam, you are a dyed-in-the-wool Black Templars fan. You even at some point in the history, many years ago, decades ago, you had your own Black Templar podcast.
So literally the first content I ever produced was almost 5 years, about 5 years ago now, like right at the start of
trillion years ago. The
Feels
Cretaceous
like
period of Warhammer 40,000 podcast.
the start of the modern era, some may say. Yeah, I started a podcast about trying to get better, trying to be better as a person and trying to get better at the game by playing what was then considered the worst or one of the worst factions, which was Black Templars, because that was the first 8th edition Space Marine Codex, which was quite weak compared to the ones that came after it. And then Black Templars was one of the weaker of those because they had just had the extra caveats of no librarians and a bunch of stuff they couldn't do. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna take this on, set myself the challenge. I'm gonna build this awesome, beautiful army that I've always wanted to have. That had some personal ties for me as well. My father's from Malta. The symbol of Malta, their emblem is the Templar cross, which is the Black Templars cross. And so I ended up making an army that was just really close to home. It felt good. It felt like it tied into my heritage as well. Like I did some awesome stuff as well. So I went to Malta with my family, with my father, and I got a bunch of Maltese euro coins, which have the Templar symbol on them, and I used them as my command points. So I get a big stack of them at the start of the game, like casino chips, and then I just throw them into this little tin I had every time I spent the command points.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool as I've got little ones. If my opponent wants to do it as well, I've got little €1 ones, and I've got the €2 ones, and I'll give them the fatty €2 ones, and I'll take the €1 ones, and we can just throw them into the pile whenever we expend them. And it's a cool. I don't know. That army just has always felt good. And I've always had nothing but love for it. For that. Especially thematically, like the more I read about them. Also, I've got to say, this love of the faction goes even further before that, because one of the first books, I think the very first book I ever bought from a G-Dub personally, because I got gifted rule books and stuff for first edition, second edition stuff from my parents. But I bought the old Armageddon supplement, which had Steel Legion in it. It had Black Templars in it. It had the first Speed Freaks rules in it.
The Damned.
It was so cool. Oh my god, it was as an 8 or 9 year old boy, it was the coolest thing that had ever existed. Like Terminators, Ninja Turtles, that was yesterday, baby. We're grown up now. We like bolters. Yeah, so this is a faction that I have nothing but adoration for.
Yeah, no, fair enough. So this is coming out, and I feel like there's some interesting things given to this codex that is decidedly different than what they play with in the Space Marine Codex.
Yeah, they've got quite a bit of unique stuff that they get. So if we haven't talked about the vows yet, they don't have a super doctrine. You'll see a Space Marine supplement, and then one of the doctrines of the game, that be it that Devastator, Tactical, or Assault doctrine, they'll get an extra bonus on top because they thematically are better in that one. White Scars are better in Assault; they get an Assault doctrine bonus. Ultramarines are very tactically flexible, so in the Tactical doctrine you'll get a bonus, etc., etc. Templars eschew that, and they get a vow at the start of the game. Now it's powerful in that you can pick it at the start of the game. You don't have to list it on your list. But due to that, I found that they are, while exciting and interesting, they're not as powerful as some of the super doctrines out there. They're like that. None of them are as good as just a universal +1 attack.
So hang on one second. You mentioned that they get to pick it. So let me read the actual rule. At the end of the read mission briefing step, you can select one of the following Templar vows, and there are 4 vows you can choose. So that is specifically a step in the game generation set of things.
Yeah, so let me get this right. So maybe Red will speak to it. You walk up to the table. You look on your thing. You see you're playing what table you're on. You walk up to the table. You meet your opponent. You shake hands. He gives you a list. You give him a list. You look at the list. Then you look at the mission, and then you pick your vow. Is that right?
That's what it sounds like to me, because it's
That's what-
after
yeah.
the mission was chosen.
I have all these psychers. You're like, oh, weird, cool, sounds good. I'm playing
Turns out.
Templars.
Turns out this might be a good day. But yeah, and that's a huge amount of flexibility. I think only, AdMech has more flexibility than that because they get to do it turn by turn in their, doctriners and whatever and canticles. But it's very
that
similar.
makes a weird benchmark to try to.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I said it feels more like what sisters get. Yeah.
Yeah.
But see, the weird thing is in that comparisons, there actually comes with a downside on these as well as a pro side. And the downsides are all very thematic, by the way. Like some of them are worse, and some of them, actually are quite a big pain in the behind to try and negotiate. But they're all very thematic. Like the the 80 cycle one, you can't perform an action if you're within 18 of a psyker, because you're just like too furious. Why do you exist still?
So, Abhor the Witch, destroy the witch. That's the name of the vow. So once per battle in your first movement phase, if there are any enemy psyker units within your opponent's army, until the end of the phase, add 3 to the move characteristic of the models in your unit, which is actually pretty good, if you ask me.
It is.
Each time a model in this unit makes a melee attack against a psyker unit, reroll a wound roll of 1. Also pretty good. But the passion, the drawback of that, is when an enemy psyker unit is within 18 inches of this unit cannot perform any actions.
And that's not that big a deal. If you have a couple of secondaries you can take where you don't do actions, not taking Retrieve Octarius data can be a quite an issue for some armies. If you're built to do it, like you build that into you go into a tournament, you're like, well, I want to be able to take this, so I build like a couple of little units in there. You might feel bad that you've wasted 100 200 points of your army list that doesn't get to do that now, but you're still Marines, so your stuff's still pretty good anyway. But yeah, that's not that big a downside, because in those ones you take like Abhor the Witch, because of course they've got Psychers to kill. You can take Oath of Moment still, or one of the Black Templar secondaries, and then you just take like a generic engage in all fronts or something else. So that's not a huge downside, really. And if you'll notice, it says only within 18 inches. So if you can put up 3 banners, 3 raise the banners in turn 1, and then stop them from pulling them down, that still makes sense, right? The only issue is if they do pull them down, you might never get to put them up again, is the only issue.
Explain that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Well, so raise the banners. You have to do an action upon an objective, and then you're considered to have planted the banner of your faction on that objective. And then every turn thereafter that you hold it, you generate a point, and then you generate 1 more point at the end of the game for all the ones you hold when the game concludes or the end of your final turn. Now, if somebody was to, let's say, a unit of Scarabocol Terminators charges into your 5 intercessors, and of course they're going to chop them up pretty well, and then they pull down the banner, you need to clear that unit off and then hold it for a turn with no intervention from your opponent to be able to put that banner back up. Now, if they're able to get 1 unit to charge on it, and then it's very unlikely that they won't then be able to follow that up in support of that unit with just any old thing to be within 18 inches of that objective marker. And so once you get your banner taken down during the game, if you go first, you can very easily put up a bunch of banners, as you can at the moment. But once somebody was able to pull it down, if they're into the middle of the board, it's very unlikely you'll get to put it up again, unless you're absolutely dominating, in which case, go for it. The world's your oyster.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah. But it's an interesting thing. So a lot of people have coined. I've been quite negative in some other content places about this codex, and I think I made a mistake and I've done myself an injustice. And so this is my apology to myself. I want to do a little bit of a monologue.
Look, I think let me come in as your apologist of your apology or whatever. Is that you are a super fan of the faction? You are specifically keen to understand and expect the nuances of this to be impactful.
Yeah. So there's a couple of different things I'd like to speak to here. Firstly, I'll put on my and one of the issues, I know Paul comes into this issue as well. I'm sure Red does in his own work. But when you are an analyst, a content creator, a commentator, a player, you find you can have a lot of different hats upon which to view a release, view a set of rules. And so I kind of got a little bit muddled on this one when I looked through it.
I think you probably want this to be. You want to look at this and be like, is this the magic bullet? Can this be what handles Yukari? Can this be what handles Adeptus Mechanicus?
Exactly right. As a tournament player, as a competitive player, every time a new release comes out, I want it to be the thing that shakes things up. Because I'm just going to put it out there. I feel like things are a little bit stale at the moment. Like we've had about 7 months where at an ultra competitive level, and this certainly isn't for everybody, and hopefully you can bear with me. Drukari and Admech, Grey Knights.
Let me jump in for a second. Is that Drukari and Admech have zero reliance upon Psychers? What do Black Templar have an ability to do? Like one of their biggest 1-2 punches is dealing with Psychers.
Well, yeah. In addition, they've got a bunch of relics and a bunch of their special relic bearer relics, which we'll get to, that enhance their ability to fight against Psychers.
Oh, let me tell you, I actually love some of their relic abilities, like their point upgrades to the characters and sergeants and that kind of stuff that our other codexes have, essentially give them extra relics, which I think is incredibly powerful, which has a huge impact on the game, but not specifically what we're talking about.
I think that section of the book is the best section of the book, apart from Hellbreak's data sheet, which you'll get to.
Moves, baby.
Oh man, he's so good. He's so good. The relic bearers bit, I feel like that might be the most interesting, exciting, intrigue-filled portion of any of those chapter-specific, point-specific upgrade things, portions of the book. Like that one, I feel like it's up there.
We can talk about that in a second. I mean, I think that is an important part.
Absolutely. But as far as me doing disservice to myself, I looked at this book and I looked at it cover to cover, and I didn't see anything to shake up the status quo. I didn't see anything this book could do to contend with those top armies, and then I got disheartened. And then as a thematic Black Templars player, I looked at the things this book was telling me to take, like competitively, telling me to invest in. I didn't feel like they were very Black Templar-y at the time. And then lastly, I realized I've, as somebody who's deeply bought into Games Workshop's 8th edition and 9th edition paradigm, the way they release things, and like every so often your codex comes along and you get your rules released, and then it's a cycle of a couple of years before you get another opportunity. And when this one came along and didn't fulfill at the time it did, I felt like it didn't fulfill my competitive needs, it didn't fulfill my thematic needs, and I realized I might be waiting several years for that next window to come by, the next opportunity for these guys to fulfill me as a player. I think I doubled down on my disappointment, and I got into a pretty negative headspace.
If I can give you any solace, is that the Blood Angels and their reliance upon Sanguinary God, which are not Primaris, is it same thing. But as we've seen, as the game and stuff evolves, is that you can make things happen with what's here in the book. Even Shock and Awe. I want to talk about Shock and Awe as a stratagem.
Yeah.
Okay, Shock and Awe is use a stratagem in your movement phase. Select one Black Templar, Land Raider, Crusader. And you heard me right. Land Raider Crusader. Model from your army that made a normal move this phase. Units embarked with this in transport can disembark in the phase, but it cannot be selected to move again in that phase. So 1 CP.
So let me put it into context. You have a very, very, very slow unit like Assault Centurions, yeah? They move, I think is it 4 inches?
It is 4 inches, yeah.
They move 4 inches. I'm looking for my Marines Codex. No,
it's 4 or 5 inches is our normal move.
And then you have a Land Raider Crusader that moves 10 inches. And so all of a sudden, you've just got 6 more inches on that unit for 1 CP. It feels pretty good, and then you can go off and charge. Like, you can't move again, but you still get the disembark. So you disembark 3.
3 inches, which is so you've moved 10 plus you 13. You move 13 inches across the table plus a charge.
And then declare a rerollable charge because you're Black Templars, possibly with a +2 if you manage to get a chappy with a litany up next to it. So, you can just sling these bad boys. You can get 5. I mean, it's still a transport capacity of 16 on a Land Raider Crusader. That's still possibly 5 Assault Centurions.
16 Vanguard vets?
Yeah, spot on. There's a lot of stuff you can compact into this. You can chuck, was it 8 Terminators you can chuck in? They take up the place of 2. Yep. And there is some really cool stuff you can do with Sergeants. Like, I think a lot of people looked at T-Suns and said, it feels like, a great way to play this would be a lot of characters, a lot of hero hammer. And I don't know if we've ever heard the term Sarge hammer or, Sword Brother hammer before, but this is really exciting part of this book.
So we can talk about that in a second, though, with the relic bearers, with the so the upgrades, so in all the codexes where we talked about to where, so this is one of the interesting things in this edition is that you get to spend points on upgrading characters for various things. And specifically the Black Templars, is you can upgrade them to have relics, special war gear that is not available to other units.
Yeah, so I'll just read it out for people. If your army includes any chaplains, I mean, and you're playing Black Templar, so you take a chaplain.
Well,
and also
you're playing
Space
Marines. Why are you not taking a chaplain? Why are you not taking at least 2 chaplains?
Well, my list, I think most of my Black Templars list will start with 2 chaplains.
Yep.
I think Romualdus is really good as well. For each Black Templar's infantry or Black Templar's biker unit, excluding characters, from your army, you can select 1 upgrade from listed below to give that unit. And then they're all 10, 15, or 20 point upgrades. And I gotta say, some of these relics are better than
they're not okay. Let's also, they're not just relics of the chapter. These are bonus relics.
There's a baller relics.
Okay, yeah, fair.
So people look at their regular relics and then they think, then the second fiddle will be, my what do you call the second fiddle stuff? The special issue war gear. That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Which are like your little pseudo relics. They're not quite as good as usually not quite as good as the stuff on the relics page, but they're good enough to make a bit of a difference for your sergeants and whatnot. This stuff dunks on special issue war gear.
I completely agree.
It's really good stuff. So one build that's getting thrown around at the moment in some of the Black Templar think tanks is a Assault Terminator Sergeant or any old. So this is the interesting thing. These don't have to be on the sergeants. They can be on any model of the unit. But sometimes, one of the attacky ones you put on a sergeant for the extra attack. But there's a one called the Crux Obsidian. Each time an attack is allocated to this model.
That's what I was looking at. Like, I basically was talking about the Crux Obsidian.
Subtract 1 from the damage roll. So -1 damage. And put that on a lad who's got a 4-up invuln innately, and who can have like a 1-up armor save for that storm shield, a 0-up armor save in cover.
I look at some of these things. So they're relics. So you spend points on the relic bearers, and they are from 10 to 20 points. Most of them being 10, a couple of them are 15. The Sigismund seal is 20 points, and I seriously look at it as like, how many points would I pay for this ability?
Yes.
And almost every single one of these, the points I would pay for the ability exceeds what the points actually is, and so I consider them each a bargain.
Dude, I absolutely agree, except for Beastpire. I'm not sure I'm up for playing.
Come on, Beastpire is 10 points.
It's fair. It's a blast flamer. Actually, I'm doing it a disservice. The only reason I wouldn't take it is because I don't think I need it.
So
I think if I want to take flamers,
is a 15-inch Assault D6, String 6, -2 AP, damage 1, abilities blast. Each time an attack is made with this weapon, the attack automatically hits the target. 15 inches. There's
the kicker. It's a flamer with blast. So a lot, and some of the time it's just going to be auto 6 shots at strength 6 -3 1 damage. The auto hit. Like, is that worth 10 points? So if you have the flamer anyway, probably.
Number 1 is 10 points. So
yeah. But there are some other really, really amazing ones. Firstly, there's a power fist in here.
Okay. Let me go back to, so if your army includes any Black Templar chaplains, you can use the upgrades below. So buy all of them.
Well, that's like my first couple of lists that I've written have like 5 or 6 of these in it, and I realized for the points of the things, I could just buy another squad of guys in my army. So I'm like, maybe that's a little bit too much, Adam.
No, okay, yeah, look at them, but look at them that way. And that's actually, whenever you're buying upgrades for things, and you're actually talking about in Red, you can probably speak to this, is that when you are buying upgrades, you have to look at the opportunity cost for things. Yep. And how many things am I sacrificing when I'm buying these toys?
Right, exactly. And that's where, you're talking to a guy. Adam, I understand where you're coming from in regards to, just recapping a little bit, in regards to Black Templar and where they're at in the meta and everything. But you're also talking to a guy who's currently painting his Tanith army and is also played Necrons and Khorne, right? So, I only feel so sorry for you, I guess.
Well, I would like to say we forgot it in August, but everybody say happy birthday to the Chaos Space Marines Codex, because it was its 4th birthday in August. this month it is Craftworld Eldar, and Guard's 4th birthday
Awesome.
in October.
Nice.
Awesome. So yeah, so back to the opportunity cost. I think that the Black Templar are being given quite a bit with the supplement. This isn't just a campaign book. This isn't just a little add-on or what have you. This is a whole supplement with its own set and everything. And that's nothing out of the ordinary for our Space Marines. And so when it comes down to opportunity costs and what they're being given, would you say they definitely have more than what they had from Psychic Awakening at this point?
I mean, quantity, yes. Quality, no.
So they lost Devout Push, and if Devout Push is the only thing,
Devout Push is different.
So there's 3 things they lost, and those are the 3 things that we're kind of bemoaning here. They lost the complete jank tank toolbox that Devout Push was, because I compared what Devout Push was to Soul Burst. It was almost like a thing that happened outside the boundaries of the game,
sure,
and in the right hands,
it was out of sequence. Something that you could do.
Yeah.
They
also had Advance and Charge, a 1 CP Advance and Charge, or it might have been 2 CP. And then they had they had a 1 CP Advance and Charge, and they had a 2 CP. You can't fall back on a 2+. And that last one. So they have all 3 of those things, but they're significant, like they're demonstrably watered down. So Devout Push is still phenomenal, by the way. Devout Push is still phenomenal. It still has a bunch of different applications. It's not the ridiculously broken thing that I think it was before. The no fallback strat is now 1 CP instead of 2.
I don't know that it was broken before, but it definitely gave you way more.
It was one of those ones that just couldn't not give somebody a feel bad.
Yeah.
That's
you did something? Okay, well, I'm going to do this thing for 1 CP that does something else. Great.
Yeah.
It was always waiting in the wings.
And every time I used it on my opponent, I felt like a gotcha, even though I told them at the start of the game, I can do this in your turn, I can do this in my turn. And then when I used it when they weren't expecting, because it was so hard mentally to account for all the things it could do, I just felt bad. And I actually don't mind that one getting changed, because I feel like it was too good. Even as a Templars player, I feel like that was too good. But then the loss of the Advance and Charge on top, which just left me feeling like we're quite a slow army, and aggressively in the upper echelons of competitiveness.
Slow until you get a Land Raider.
Yes, 250 points for the privilege of being quick again.
Okay,
Speedy boys.
So I will point out that like a Land Raider won a bracket.
Dude. If it said any Land Raider, I wanted to say Land Raider Crusader, but if I could do that in an Achilles, I'd be pretty happy.
Achilles. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I agree with what you're saying, Red. I think they're better than I give them credit for, and but the one I keep coming back to is trying to understand the play style that makes sense for this book. And the one I've come to is, this is after a couple of days of mulling it over, a couple of days of absorbing and talking to people as well. It's a brawler. It's a grindy brawler of a list, and think akin to a Death Guard, so to speak. Whereas in Death Guard, your power isn't so much in your characters, which is exactly what here is, even though they do have some very killer characters like Hellbrick. Yeah. Your power is in your units and how indomitable you can make some of your units, push them up, get them onto mid-board objectives quickly. I mean, you can't do much once you get there. There is the Advance and Charge turned into a 1 CP strat to shoot with rapid fire weapons and pistols and stuff, even though you've advanced, or if you have assault weapons, to shoot without the penalty. So if you do take assault weapons on your intercessors or your Crusader squad, you can shoot when you get there. But it's like taking really deadly character smash. If you can take a smash captain in your Terminator squad and then push, advance, extra advance, because of Grimoldus lets you advance D3 plus 3, which is exciting. So you can get to the middle of the board early. You can't do a lot when you get there, but you could be a tough SOB and very intimidating when you get there. And I think that's what I'm going to try and lean into. And that at least makes sense to me for what this book's trying to do.
Run that by one more time.
So consider this. You have a unit of Blade Guard veterans, yeah? Blade Guard veterans, great unit, very, very imposing, very deadly.
I love them.
They
look awesome.
And if there's anything more thematic to be in a Black Templars list than Crusader squads and Hellbrick and stuff, Emperor's Champion, it's Blade Guard veteran. That's the thing that makes so much sense for them to be there. They look sick. and look awesome. But sometimes they're not as good. Like if you're playing into a -1 damage army, they're not that great. They don't actually do that much. They've got a good amount of attacks, but a damage 1 and a lot of the things that are minus damage have an invul some of the time, especially if it's Death Guard. But then you take that sergeant in that unit and you give him the Sword of Judgment for 1 CP. You can give a sergeant a relic, and he gets 2 strength 7 -3 flat 3 damage, and a couple of other ways to buff him up to getting like 6-7 attacks. And then all of a sudden you have a smash captain who has 12. If you've got a 5-man unit who has 12 ablative wounds that can be transhumaned with a 4+ invulnerable save, and you're like, come at me, bro. Like, dig me off. Come on, I dare you to. I want you to swing. Come into me. Let's go. I want to party. Because you can come in and kill 4 of those guys in that unit, and that one guy still picks up the whole unit in return.
It's important to mention that this is a supplement to the I almost say Chaos Space Marines. This is a supplement to the Space Marines Codex, to where all the units that are available to Space Marines are available by Templars.
Exactly right. And I think, unfortunately, I'm not hugely enamored with the data sheets apart from the special characters. Like, I think Romualdus is incredible. I think Helbrecht is incredible. The jury for me is still out on the Crusader squads, but I think the Sword Brethren they're not what I want them to be, at least. So hopefully,
are you not digging on the fact that Primaris Crusader squads are troops?
I am so happy. I'm just waiting to see if 20 man's worth it. I want to be like, I'm just going to chuck my 20 boys here and go do the good work, son.
That's going to take some time to develop, I think, because the Primaris Crusader squads have 5 to 11 Primaris initiates, which are the lower armored, whatever.
Yeah.
And then the neophytes with a 4+ armor save, 4 to 8 of those, and then a sword brother. So you can make a 20 dude Crusader squad.
Yep, and you can make it very defensible. You can take it with the vow for the 5+ invulnerable save, and that also 5 invulnerable save has a baby transhuman component to it, as in you can't be wounded on 1s and 2s. I don't know why they put 1s in there, because 1s never wound, but you can't be wounded on 2s. And then you can. There are rules to say if you fail to wound or whatever, then I guess the 1's already failed. But yeah, exactly. But I like that they put it in there. Whatever makes you feel better. It's 2 numbers, not 1.
It is 2 numbers.
But yeah, you're right. It's the 20-man Crusader squad is a thing I need to put on the table and see how it feels. I can't get a good impression of it just sitting on the sidelines, kind of speak. I need to get it on the table, play it like 20 times, and then sit back and be like, has it been worth it or not? And has it added enough to the list to warrant the 350 point price tag? Because that's really what it comes down to. It's 350 odd points, a few more points if you want to give them all assault bolters or carbines or whatnot. And that can blow it out to 373, 363-ish. I can't remember which one, but it's a lot of points. Like 300 plus points for this unit is a lot.
It's a lot of it's a lot of wounds on the table.
It's a huge amount of wounds, man. Like, yeah. And so yeah, it's just one I need to get my bearings. I need to figure out if the juice is worth the squeeze.
Well, let's talk about Helbrick for 160 points.
Chadbrecht
with 8 wounds. So this is definitely a component army. This is one of those ones to where you can't look at it at the individual unit. I think you have to look at the whole thing. So when you start looking at dreadnoughts, we start looking at rhinos, land raiders, the other Space Marine units. Even you talked about squads in the land raider itself.
The fact that I can open my mouth and the words land raider come out, I'm happy. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, well, High Marshal Helbrick is 160 points, and he has 8 wounds with a 2+ armor save and a 4+ invulnerable save.
I'm just going to point something out. So, High Marshal Helbrecht is what Khan the Betrayer wishes he was. He went up 5 points, guys. 5 points.
5 whole points?
From his Primaris glow up, he went up 5 points. And he increased his wounds by 2, his attacks by 1. All his war gear got better. Oh my God. That's like the best 5 points I've ever seen.
So why are you complaining?
Oh, because, one awesome model and data sheet does not an army make.
You have to build around these characters.
Yeah, you're right.
So let's talk about, when I say build around, let's talk about this. So Angels of Death, Codex Space Marines, but Crusade of Wrath. While a friendly Black Templar core unit is within 6 inches of this model, add 1 to the string characteristics of models in this unit.
Huge. So he had the same thing in the previous iteration, and it was worth bringing him for it if you were going,
all his abilities, his aura abilities, I think, are the same.
Yes, they are. And so Morven Val, yeah? When she came out, everyone's like, oh my god, she's so good. She does everything. She hits, she shoots, she hits, she buffs, everything. He is on a similar train. He's 100 points less, and there's like 100 points less of stuff on him. He doesn't give, real wound. Ain't got missiles, ain't in a big old mech and can't fight twice or have a feel no pain against mortals.
Yeah, 2+ save.
This dude, he has 7 attacks on the charge, and he has a sweep profile on his sword that is strength +2, -3, 1 damage. He can have 14 attacks at strength 6, -3.
So yeah, each time an attack is made with this weapon profile, make 2 hit rolls instead of 1. So his 7 attacks turn into 14.
Insanely good. So good. You're telling me there's a Skitarii Vanguard unit over there, yeah? How many guys in? Oh, 20. So there might be 6 guys left. Let's go in.
Well, no, I'd probably go with a 2-handed thing for damage 3.
Vanguard. You meant Cerberus Raiders or something?
Oh no, I'm saying so with his damage 3 weapon going in there, it 7 attacks.
Yeah, he's still got 7 attacks at ×2, -3, 3 damage. So strength 8, -3, 3 damage. 7 attacks. Like he's good for everything. He's good for every occasion. He puts out plenty enough buff at 160 points and plenty enough deadly at 160 points.
So any Black Templar core unit reroll hits to wound of 1. Reroll hits of 1 when they're around him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he can, in your command phase, select 1 friendly Black Templar core or Black Templar character unit within 6 inches of this model until the start of your next command phase. Each time a model is in that unit makes an attack, you can reroll a hit roll. So
yep. So Chapter Master buff and a Captain buff. And +1 strength buff, just like a little cherry on top. And he's not that many more points than a regular Chapter Master. So let me pull up points real quick. A regular captain comes in at 85 points. That's a non-Primaris captain. So of course we'll look at the Primaris captain.
Like 100 points. So it'd be 60 more points than basically a regular old captain.
Well, yeah, but then you pay 40 points for the Chapter Master upgrade. So 130 for a Chapter Master, and for 30 more points, you get a phenomenally good melee weapon, a super combi melter, a bunch of extra wounds, bunch of extra attacks, and a +1 strength aura. And you're just like, wow, that's a good points. That's a good amount of points.
Yeah, these little servitor guys carrying around what's called ferocity.
Yeah, there's so many memes about those guys. It's fantastic.
I love it. Yeah, that check out the FTN Facebook page if you want to see some sweet memes. Yeah.
Now, I am lamenting the Black Templars a little bit, but like I said, I am in the my bag overfloweth with marine options. How dare I?
Yeah. See, that's where I'm at though. Is that this? I mean, the book does it compare pound for pound by itself to the Drukhari? I don't think it does, and I think that's your point. Is that it doesn't?
Well, the only thing that has since the Drukhari's release has been AdMech. We have the numbers to back that up. Only AdMech can hang with Drukhari and vice versa. And that's not saying that people don't have the ability to win those games, and definitely not taking away anything from players who can go the distance, players and armies who just meld together. I think anybody has a puncher's chance in 9th edition with the right list for the right missions and the right tables. Anybody can win a game, but statistics show us that if you can't hang with those 2 factions, there's a big gap before the rest of the factions become relevant.
At what point do you start diluting what the Black Templar are supposed to be in, and you're just including marine things that can win games?
That's exactly right. But see, that's where the excitement is. When you take those 2 out of consideration, you're like, okay, cool. We're not as good as them. Are we as good as the rest of the pack? And I'm like, they're not as good as some of the rest of the pack. Like, I think Sisters is just like a little bit of a better version of this, just because Miracle Dice, because just that's all you need to say. You're like, oh, why are they better? Miracle Dice. And you're like, well, yeah, fair enough. Okay, cool.
Miracle Dice are good.
Yeah, it turns out they're good. But they're just like solidly in the middle of the pack. There's some exciting things to do there. There's some good play styles. There's some reasons to play them. There's some ridiculously phenomenal models to be excited about painting, which I still am. Despite anything negative I say about this faction, I love them. I adore them. I'm probably going to play 100 games of them as soon as I'm able to. So
let's take a quick break and then come back and tell Adam why he's wrong.
Red's been sitting here making dot points, getting ready. He's like, loosening up his mouth.
We'll see y'all in a minute.
FTN is brought to you by Discount Games Inc. Please visit them at www.discountgamesinc.com And don't forget to ask Jay about ways to save even more on your hobby projects.
Hey everybody, we are back. Still got Red and Adam here. Red, I know you've been patient. Are these just better berserkers?
They're not better berserkers, but they are still pretty good. I agree with what Adam said, that the Psychic Awakening had some great stuff, and they have lost some of that capability. However, I disagree with the larger part of it. That, I mean, it's and Adam has done a good job of going back and forth and admitting he was wrong up front, that he was in a dark place. And
you can look at the stuff like, oh wait, I can't do some of these. Like, there's not shortcuts. There aren't too many shortcuts in here.
Yeah, I'm okay with a codex that makes you work for it, and I think this is it. I think that, you know, we've talked about the dedication to some of these things in regards of some people are going to play it no matter what, right? And I appreciate those folks that are going to do that. And as Adam said, I do think that there's a lot of chances for anybody to come out and be able to make things work. Sure, it may not be the competitive AdMech, Drukhari, Sisters, Orc mix of 9th edition in all those regards, but I think that it's still very much Marines. Am I concerned about chaplains still? Yes. Do they still have a broken apothecary? Yes, they do. I mean, they should definitely be taking advantage of that. If
broken
you're not,
is relative.
Oh man, those chaplains.
Yeah. I keep coming back to I always just believe that they invalidated the Psyche phase as soon as they put Litanies in the game. And I was like, well, why take a Psyker when I can take a Chaplain?
Well, technically you could take both.
Yeah, and a lot of the time you're encouraged to take both. Like, T-Sons are not going to take a Psyche phase because they got a pseudo Chaplain now. It's not going to happen. But yeah, I always felt that way when it came out. I'm like, well, why do I want to take these again? Oh, right, I don't. I'm just going to take more chappies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Point being, you can get off an ability without any ability to counter it.
Exactly.
True.
Yeah. You don't get to interact with what I want to do. But does it? I don't want to get stuck in the mud here, but does it actually bother you at all, Red, that it's been like 4 years since one of your beloved factions has gotten any treatment, and I'm sitting here and I've had a Psychic Awakening and I've had a core codex and I've had a supplement and I've had a thing and a thing and a thing?
No. I mean, we all get
Red's winning games, man. You don't.
What an animal.
we all get our chance in the sun. I mean, Necron started out pretty well. I know that some of that changed as we kind of predicted. As content continued to come out, we saw adjustments and changes. And Necrons aren't they. Would it be nice to have D3 plus 3 damage for some of my big weapons? Yeah, that'd be awesome. But would it be nice to have 2 wound Chaos Space Marines? Would it be nice to have 2 wound Khorne Berserkers? I'm okay. I'm all right. They gave me Gaunt's Ghost to hold me over. I'll work my way through it. I had a good time.
Well, segue time. You're getting thrown a bone. Katie's getting a supplement.
Yeah,
that's
a great segue.
Well, before we get deep into that, I want to talk about part of what I consider is the viability of codexes is the chapter approved rules that they throw in there, the secondaries and stuff for objectives. Adam, have you had a chance to check that stuff out yet? The
secondaries for
Black Templars.
Oh yeah. So look, there's one really fun one in there. And then there's all right. So I wanted to be excited about these. I do. I really do.
Look, we're leaning on you because because you were the Black Templar fan. Beyond what I think is actually competitive. Let me just say this is that you actually care about how everything comes together: the lore, the competition, the feel of everything. And that's why I'm throwing a lot of this stuff to you. I do think so. They're Marines at the very core.
Exactly right. And this may be part of where I went wrong as well. So many of the 9th edition codexes, I'll give absolute credit to G-Dub for this. So many of the 9th edition codexes have felt like a beautiful marrying of the lore and the thematic elements with what is good, what is strong, and what you want to take. It just felt like it's a glove. And they've done it so well, so consistently that I had that level of I think I had that level of expectation with the Black Templars, that I would want to play this aggressive, zealotish mob of like almost a rabble of berserkers just running at my opponent. And it feels like that's not what the list is. The best lists are going to end up being. I mean, you look at how good we talk about Admech and Drakari being absolutely, incomparably powerful. You talk about the lists that win. Thematically, they're very astute, make a lot of sense, aren't over the top, have got a lot of different elements, and not spamming one thing consistently. Well, possibly I think Dark Technomancers was the closest they got to spamming, or the overabundance of
that was the thing where
I
think even the staunchest lore were like, I don't know if that's real.
Well, it was obvious that G-Dub didn't intend that to be a thing because they nerfed it. And now look at Drakari lists. You got three. You see a witch cult, you see a cabal, and you see a covens in the same thing. And I'm like, couldn't have done it better. And that's their best list. Their best list has all three of those elements in it, and it's superbly powerful. Marines lists most of the time play like their counterpart supplement. You talk about Blood Angels, yeah. Sangard, Vanguard Vets, a unit of Death Company, Smash Captains, like Sang Priest. What's not thematic about that? Like, it is perfect marrying of how they feel in the fluff.
I mean, you obviously need Mephiston in there, so that's what...
yeah. They gave us back the Warrior Phalanx, for God's sake. They gave us the Warrior Phalanx back for Necrons when it first came out. We're like, oh my God, Necron Warriors are amazing. I want to take 80. And they've been so good at this. And so I think I had an expectation that and maybe it's just me. Maybe that's exactly right. My expectations, that my vision in my head of what Black Templars should be is not a true representation of what they are.
No, I don't want to say that. I really don't want to say that at all, because you've
I'm actually
seen it.
Okay with it, Paul. I think he's doing great. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Keep going. I'm sorry. Keep going, Paul. I am.
Thank you from the corn desk. We've from the World Eater's desk. We have an opinion. But what I'm saying is, like, from someone who's been playing. I mean, you've been playing since 3rd, 4th edition Black Templar. You have an idea of what has been there, but you've also had a slant to what is most viable. And when I'm looking at specifically the chapter approved rules, is there, you are allowed, each one of these supplements in codexes has a chapter approved rule section to where you get 3 potential secondary objectives you can pick for the course of your mission. And I think this has some to do with what can win games, because this can contribute to your overall victory points.
And so Space Marines always have the good old fallback of Oath of Moment. And to be honest, remember how I described them as like a mid-table brawler grindy list? That plays into Oath of Moment very well already. So if you want to take that one, so be it. But the ones that they've been given, there's one that I love this one. This should be right up your alley. I expect Worldies to get something similar to this, because I know Blood Angels got something similar to this. At the start of the game, you select one of your characters. Yeah, you point at one of your characters, and of course it's going to fit in my army. It's going to be Chadbrecht, Helbrecht. I'm going to be like, there he is right here. And then your opponent selects one of their characters. And so, if they're loyal, if they're an honorable combatant, they'll pick their, frontline commander as well. And then you get 5 points if their character dies. You get another 5 points if that character died as a result of a melee attack, and you get another 5 points if that character dies as a result of a melee attack made by the character you chose. So you can get a clean sweep 15 if Helbrecht manages to get into their whatever it may be, their Archon or
Demon Prince.
Demon Prince. If someone picks Mortarion and you're just like oh well, let's see what happens.
Not Emotech though.
He wouldn't pick it. Oh, he would, wouldn't he? But he'd win somehow. Some janky
probably
trickery.
Loses. Yeah, I'd hate for Helbrecht to lose his other hand.
His other hand. But yeah, it's a fluffy thing. Like, if you're having a laugh with your opponent and they're up for it and you're up for it, it's a fun one to pick. But the reality is,
let me read through this. At the start of the first command phase, you must select one Black Templar character model from your army to issue the challenge, and your opponent must select one character model from their army to accept the challenge. If either player does not have a character model, they must instead select their warlord. Score 5 victory points at the end of your battle round for each of the following conditions that have been achieved. The model that has accepted the challenge was destroyed. The model that accepted the challenge was destroyed as the result of a melee attack. The model that accepted the challenge was destroyed as a result of a melee attack made by the model that issued the challenge.
I love it. I think it's fun. Is it going to come up that often in like a tournament setting? Probably next to none, unless your opponent's playing a knight, and then you're like, well, I can go character hunting, knight hunting, which would be a lot of fun. The next one after that, this one is actually quite thematic for Black Templars. You score 4 victory points at the end of the battle round if you control one or more objective markers that your opponent controlled at the start of that battle round.
At the start of the battle round, yeah.
But here comes the bit that makes it really hard to do. If it just stopped there, I'd be like, well, in some missions, especially when we're trading a central objective in some of the 5 objective missions, this makes a lot of sense. They're going to push me off, I'll push them off, they'll push me off, they'll push them off, and in the process, I'll bank a bunch of points. But it says you have to do it with a chaplain unit from your army. It has to be within range of that objective marker, in addition to taking it off your opponent. And
I don't know if that's bad though, because you're already pushing your chaplain. Your chaplain, because of the base size, because of its durability, you're already pushing that up anyway. And the auras,
he's on a bike.
But here's the problem. Because he's on a bike. But here's the problem. As soon as your opponent asks a couple of questions, they're like, "Oh wait, is that the one where you need to have a chaplain alive to do this?" And then the first time you do it, like, "Well, you're not going to get any more than 4 points because I'm going to put every resource to kill that guy, and you can't do it again." And that's why I don't like.
I don't know that that's possible.
Yeah. So, well, the whole premise of this,
like, who doesn't want to kill the chaplain anyway? But
that's right.
The frequency in which the chaplains are always alive. Of all the games I've looked at, of all the games I've called and observed, the chaplain is always alive.
Fair. Do you want to paint a bigger target on him then? And that's up to you.
Yeah. Okay. You are right. Is it once you start to narrow the lanes of what your opponent should be doing? You're right. I think you're spot on. I mean, I do agree with you, but I'm saying that the likelihood that they have the resources to really... I don't know anyone that I've ever played against who has not wanted to kill my chaplain.
That's true. If I have a chaplain and he's anywhere near my front lines, my opponent's like, I'm going to kill that guy.
Yeah, I'm going to get in there and do it. But it doesn't always work.
It's true. And you could... here's one thing you should know. Of course, it's Black Templars. We can build extremely durable chaplains or extremely killer chaplains. And you can do kind of a little bit of both.
They're trying to kill Hellbrick at this point. They're like, I ain't got time for this chaplain on the bike.
Yeah. Well, and so that's the thing though. If you're and of course I'm speaking to this as thinking that like one central objective you can trade back and forth in your opponent is the kind of the best setup. If you do on that one, I worry that you're going to not get them to take the objective back, and they're just going to let you have it, and then you're only going to get 4 points again. So it's like all right, you're going to get 4 points if I actually clear you off this objective. Well, I'm not going to do that until turn 4 or turn 5 now, because you'll have less resources then, and whatnot.
It is a bit of a a bit of a dagger that the chaplain has to be there, but I think you're already doing that.
Well, that's right. Your chaplain's usually up in the front, giving out the buffs and doing that stuff. So it's not crazy. My only issue is if you do that, you're pretty much just painting "kick me" on his face.
Yeah.
On his face, like kick me very hard, because otherwise I'll get a bunch of points.
I just don't know who. I mean, I guess the games that I've played, no, this is practically how it plays out. Not now. I mean, you're right. You're painting a target on their back or whatever, but I just don't know anyone who has not tried to seize my target of opportunity when I put the chaplain up there in front.
That's fair, man. I mean, the ones that worry me, though, is like a succubus. Like, they can be slung from 24 inches away.
No, you got to kill a succubus first.
That's right, for the one that's 24 inches away in a raider on the back of the board.
Yeah, you kill the succubus with bolters first.
That is some straight up Death Company logic there. I love it.
Yeah. Sorry, I've already beat it down with thunderhammers and bolters. And Angelus bolt guns.
Now, here's the last one. So the last one is interesting, and I don't actually... So I've gone back and forth on how much I like this one, and the biggest downside here is that it's in the same section as Oath of Moment, and of course we know how good Oath of Moment is.
So No Mercy, No Respite is the category. So you only get to pick one objective per category.
Do you guys also think that it'll be a sneaky, clever way for GW to balance the game by shifting the sections the secondaries are in?
Oh yeah, I think it's definitely a toggle.
If all of a sudden Retrieve Octarius data and Engage in All Fronts were in the same section, like everyone would have to be like, oh my god, what am I going to take now? And things would get a lot more. There'd be a lot more intrigue into your choices again.
I think everything in a category that is forced to be one way or the other is a toggle. Because if you remember, you didn't used to have to pick one from each category or whatever.
Yeah, there wasn't such a thing.
I mean, that stuff is definitely going to be played upon. I would expect it to be played upon as we evolve and mature in this edition.
Yeah. Now, so this objective is the one that I think makes a lot of sense for that mid-table brawler kind of list, that grindy kind of aggressive list I was talking about. So there's a lot of text. Can I just TLDR it? Can I just sum it up?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So if you kill more units in combat than your opponent kills entirely in their whole turn, or in the whole battle round, you get 4 points. It's 4 points. That's a lot for kill more. Like grind them down is 3 points. This is 4. But you can only score a maximum of 12 from this, because then there's a caveat that goes along with your vow. And so for each of the vows, there's another little thing to get you the last 3 points. One of them includes like being in your opponent's deployment zone. So this reads, uphold the honor of the emperor was if that vow was selected. If an infantry unit from your army that is not below half strength is in the enemy deployment zone at the end of the battle, you get 3 points. So they're all kind of something similar to that. If you're doing something at the end of the game, you get the last 3 points. Now the reason I like this is because if you take those big blocks of 20 guys and you make them all pretty durable, and you just walk up onto those middle objectives,
you make it durable by giving a helpless and vulnerable save or apothecary or whatever.
Yeah, exactly right. And you just smack 20 guys boots onto that objective. Chances are they're
60 wounds worth of things.
Yeah, well, 40, but yeah.
Add in whatever you want, but I mean,
add in a couple of supporting characters. Yeah, you get up there. They can't throw one. There's not, in my mind, apart from maybe some real outliers like a full unit of Sangard or Death Company or a huge max unit of Repentia with every single buff. There's no one unit they're going to be able to throw into that 20-man that's going to smash it in one go. E.g., you get to fight and pick up all the other things that they tried to throw into you. And so you can always get like a 2-for-1 out of that exchange, e.g., cap the 4 points for the kill more. And if all your army is like, Terminator's Blade Guard, 20-man bricks that are super durable, it's really hard for them to get more than maybe 1 kill a turn. So you just have to kill 2 things. And if there's a lot of the MSU armies out there, I get there have been turns of the game where I've gotten 11 kills against Drukhari in a turn, and they still beat me, which is frustrating. But that's the thing that happens.
Get good, man.
Just get good. No, they just need less stuff. All right, they just need less stuff.
No, when you're looking at so the Marines are spending on average, like real talk, Marines are spending on average 120, 150 points a unit. Drukhari are spending an average of 80 points per unit, and they always trade up.
Yeah, exactly right. They always swing above their weight class. But you see the logic there, right? If you're forced to have these big imposing units, which you kind of want to take anyway, that are more durable than they usually are, and your opponent has to put more resources than they want to try and dislodge them, and you get the opportunity to not trade up, but not go 1 kill for 1 kill or 1 kill for 2 kills. You can go 1 kill for 3 kills, 4 kills with some of the things that they do. We ran the numbers on a unit of Incubi into these 20-man bricks, and this was a 20-man brick with the 5-up invulnerable save, the 5-up feel no pain, which is one of the litanies that you get for being Black Templars, which is another awesome part of the book. And then you put transhuman on them because they're still a Primaris unit. And we reckoned you needed 3 units of Incubi to get that unit to below 15 guys. To kill 15 of them, you needed 15 Incubi. So 1 for 1 almost. And then, after the first, they need to make you fight last. If they don't make you fight last, you interrupt and you pick up, after the first one strikes, you pick up the other 2.
There's a lot of fight first in this codex, by the way. There are tons of abilities that chaplains and characters and units get to fight first. So after that initial charge where your opponent declares, nominates which unit to fight with, you then get a lot of manipulation.
This is a really, exactly right. This is a really, the army I'm describing, at least, this might be the trail that people want to go down. The one I'm describing, the mid-table brawler, is one that just is so good for fights first and fights last interactions. There's one of the relic bearer relics is the holy hand grenade. So
I don't know that we spoke about that specifically earlier. I mean, I know we touched on it in the first part of the show, but
it was previewed by GW, so I figured we didn't have to.
Yeah, so every codex that we've seen in 9th edition has the ability to invest points into a character model or a sergeant or whatever, some class of model in the army. This specifically lets you invest in Black Templar infantry, Black Templar bikers, excluding characters, sergeants, and that kind of stuff. Spend a few points and give them a really great extra ability stat and/or / relic. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And so the Holy Orb one is really cool. Like it's one once per use
Once per battle in your shooting phase, you can select one enemy unit that is within 6 inches and visible of the model. Roll 1d6 on a 2+. The unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. Until the end of that turn, the unit is not eligible to fight until after all eligible units from your army has done so.
Now, it's an important distinction that's 2 different dot points.
Yeah,
Even if you don't roll the 2+ to get the mortal wounds off, they still fight last.
Yes.
So either way, it doesn't matter. It's not a shooting attack, so you can do it if you're already in combat. You can do it after you advance. You can do it after you fall back. It's just a point at thing happens.
Yeah. Once per battle, you select in your shooting phase. You select one enemy unit within 6 inches and visible to the model, not roll to hit or whatever. Yeah,
it's just an ability. It's just going to happen. Like, that rabbit, big nasty teeth. It's gone.
Why would he bother to carve? Arr.
Yeah, wouldn't surely you just say it?
Yeah.
But let's. I think we've given Black Templars enough love. But up to you guys if you want to keep going down the rabbit.
No, look, we had a few more minutes in the show. I think this is. I mean, you were a little shy on.
I feel like Adam needed this. I feel like he really needed.
This has been quite cathartic. Quite cathartic, I will admit. I stand by the things that I said on my other podcast because that was coming from it's a competitive content I'm creating, and so I'm talking about it from a pure competitive point of view. But you guys have allowed the Black Templars player, just the enthusiast, to shine through, and I don't give a crap. I'm going to play these guys. I'm going to love it.
Well, no, I mean, I feel the same way. It's like I want the lore to meet up with my competitive nature, and I want to be able to put efficient things on the table. And I do think this codex the supplement allows for that.
In all reality, it really does. It probably does. I'm looking forward to modeling up the relic being. Looking forward to that. Just having just Joe, the intercessor, just carrying a hand grenade out in front of him, really with such trepidation. Yeah, exactly. It's exciting. Do you guys want to speak to Octarius a little bit? Because it's coming out. This is a fluff piece that's been around for many years, hasn't it? But it's never gotten an associated. I don't know if it's had a release yet.
Well, Octarius was the kill team situation.
Yeah, I mean the story of it. I remember hearing about the story of it. I think even in 7th edition, the story of the Octarius sector, what went down.
I don't want to speculate too much, but they're giving some love to some different factions.
Yeah, but I was more speaking to the story of it. Do you guys remember what's occurred and how this fight's come about? Because it's pretty. I mean, it's horrific, but really kind of funny and interesting.
Oh, is it funny? Now I'm intrigued. I want to hear your version of it because we went from horrific to
what is funny. Yeah.
So what is funny is that through a bunch of awful circumstances and purging of world, a Inquisitor was able to force a Orc War and a tendril of High Fleet Leviathan to meet on a world and have a perpetual eternal bloodbath, like punch on fisticuffs. And he hoped by working ahead of the tendril of High Fleet Leviathan and essentially, unfortunately, exterminating a bunch of worlds, there's no other way to say it, and so it had no biomass to attach to, it would be forced to this one core world where I can't remember if it's the Overfiend or one of the big head honcho Orc overlords of the galaxy has his main war stationed, and so then they'd get into this just perpetual war that would never end and would keep both issues contained. And so it's this. I mean, the Orcs are having a great time. The Tyranids think they're doing what they want to do. It just so happens that unfortunately he had to purge whole systems in order to make this happen, which is horrific.
Okay, I'll give it to you. Funny and horrific.
Yeah, I managed to. Yeah. It's just because the Orcs are having so much fun. So this is a story that I remember. I can't remember if I was hearing about at the start of 8th or around the middle end of 7th. But even back then, I was like, that would make for some cool content, and I'm happy they're finally getting it out here.
The whole thing. I mean, and so they've previewed Tyranids and Cadians so far, right? I admit the Cadians, it kind of caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting to see what was previewed, I think just today, that White Shields back in action. That was pretty cool. So I'm wondering if there's an Army of Renown piece to it. I did see, it costs so much CP if you have X amount of conscript units in there. But I think it's pretty cool, and I mean, and Creed's there with all of Creed's stuff, so that's pretty cool.
I love Creed. I love Creed.
I I like he's made
But-
his way back in here.
Yeah, he's still got a presence, even though he's in a Pokeball in the what's the Necron Library? What's the guy's name?
Trazen.
Neilhack guy. He's Neilhack?
Yeah. Trazen the Collector. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just sitting like a Pokeball in stasis next to, quotation marks, a large Primarch-sized, Baroquely armored gentleman. May or may not be
Wearing a lot of purple. Yeah.
Yeah, may or may not be
Purple?
Vulcan. The purple? I thought it was green.
Yeah, I thought it was Vulcan.
Oh well, he's also got the Fulgrim clone.
No, I
Oh,
think
gosh, we're
Vulcan.
spoiling all kinds of books.
Yeah,
here.
like popped out in one of the Beast Arises books.
Yeah. There's that. Don't get me wrong. There's that one. There's also the one I mentioned. You have to bleep out all the spoilers.
Love it.
Our bad.
But so before this, if you told me about the fluff of Octarius and which regiment was going to get a supplement, I would have been like Catachan hands down every time. Because like jungle fighting against orcs and nids, or fighting just against orcs and nids, that sounds Catachan, or even Steel Legion, against orcs. But yeah, I was surprised.
Catching
Oh,
out.
I know.
Stuff happening. We're gonna have something happen eventually.
Eventually, yeah. Really surprised to see Cadians get this, and I think what they've got is pretty exciting for people out there who are paying attention. So, is that the conscripts get a pip of leadership, they lose the downsides of being conscripts, as in they take orders every time, not only on a full
you
class
lose the whatever the first the battle of whatever ability is. You're able to take orders.
Yeah, which was always a big deal for them. I mean, I stopped taking them when they got that kind of nerf, just because I couldn't rely on them to double move, double shoot, all those things. And as soon as it is what it is. And
Actually,
also,
I just need them to sit there on the table, just absorb damage, please.
Yeah. Well, they do that even better now too, because they've got a 1 CP strat. You just stratagem in any phase when a Canadian infantry unit from your army is selected to target of an attack. To the end of the phase, each time attack is made against a unit, a modified wound roll of 1 and 2 for that attack always fails, irrespective of modifiers. And if the attack has a damage characteristic of 1, add 1 to your armor saving throws. So as it sits right now, if you shot a bolt gun into a Cadian infantryman in cover, they'd get +1 for the cover, +1 for this stratagem, and then they could go +1 for going to ground, and then have I can't remember if Psychic Barrier is that gives them cover or it gives them just +1 again.
+1.
It's +1, yeah.
Yeah, so they could have a 1-up save. They could be a Terminator against your bolt guns if you're just willing to throw a casual, 2 CP and a Psychic Power to keep your 50 points of guardsmen alive.
Why wouldn't you though? I mean,
oh yeah, jeez. I mean, I think it's hilarious. I'm going to do it. 30 conscripts that can pop up in the open. So that means even if you don't have cover, you can still go to ground for a +1, Psychic Barrier for +1, additional +1. You still get to a 2+ against a bolt gun. That's pretty exciting on 30 guys who could just be sitting on a midboard objective.
I mean, scoring you multiple points. So that's very important to point out. Is that that's one round.
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge resource drain. But if that changes you from getting a 5-point primary to a 15-point primary every time, you're just not going to question whether you do it or not.
I love the campaign supplements. I think we're hearing some grief on the fact that these are coming out absent of a codex.
I have to concur with that. I'm a little bit frustrated by that. As a gamer, of course, I would rather have a codex than a supplement, because a codex, gives me rules for all the faction rather than just Cadians getting thrown a bone. I suppose, Red, if World Eaters got a supplement tomorrow in Octarius, would it really bother you? I know what you're going to say as well. Probably going to say no.
I mean, I'll take what I can get, I guess. We already saw that with Be'lakor and Caradon, the Book of Rust. Would I like a Demon's Codex? Yeah, sure. I'd love a Demon's Codex with more fleshed out corn stuff. But at the same time, I'll take what I can get in this drip drop feed that they're giving it to us, and I anticipate the time when they're gonna give me, a fully fleshed out codex. Of course, I mean I will. It'll be good. But I do like that they have linked it with some of the material that's coming out. One way or the other, the orcs and so on and so forth with orcs, and Admech with Admech, Drukhari, so on and so forth. It's been great. I don't mind a couple add-ons here and there. I mean, I appreciate just getting what I even get out of the White Dwarfs that they've dropped with like the chapters here and there.
Crusade
So,
stuff and
yeah,
actually,
exactly.
I will say one of the White Dwarfs has a really good ability. I think it's the Exorcist or whatever. It's in there.
Oh, well, I think there's the Exorcist, or I'm trying to think, was it the Exorcist or the Mortifactors?
I think I think it's the Exorcist.
I think it is the Exorcist.
The one or they have a transhuman on 1-2. Same with Cadians, by the way. I guess.
Yeah, I was talking to someone. Someone made a really good point that it's the one minus, or sorry, not minus, but the ignoring ones and twos is design choice, trying to combat some of just how killy they've made some of the game. I thought that was pretty, just how we're seeing it spread, because we're seeing orcs with that. Now we've got Cadians with it. It's definitely becoming a more prevalent feature.
Yeah, I like it that you have to commit to get it, but I think it is powerful.
I think it is good, and of course if you gave that same thing, like ignore, copy wizard on 1s and 2s to like custodies, it wouldn't make much of a dent, would it? Like what's winning? You got strength 10, brother. Otherwise the 2s don't matter. Or strength 6 with +1 to wound is the only other way. But as soon as you start giving these things to stuff like Cadian, stuff that's T3 or T4, it makes a big impact. It really does.
Yeah, I think especially on the T3 stuff, because there's so much. People are taking strength 6 all over the place.
Well, dude, I'm trying to stack it. There's so much T3. Well, we've talked ad nauseum in this episode about the 2 best factions and mentioned them, Admech and Drukhari. They got buckets of T3 infantry. Why? And T6 raiders and such. Strength 6 weaponry is exactly what you need at the moment.
Well, even let's go past that. We've expounded the fact that if you can get strength 6 or strength 5 for what is essentially free, like if you figure out a way, or your codex just happens to be blessed with the fact that you get that for no premium, you take it.
Exactly. Yeah, you just take it. If you pennies on the point as well is another. If you can do that, you just take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spot on.
That's it. We're out of time. We're at the end of our show.
Been a good run.
I'd like to say thank you, gentlemen, for indulging me and indulging my melancholy and pulling me back down.
I want to hear about your army list, because I think that now we've given you a little bit of context to be like, yo, I'm gonna build some cool army lists out of this.
Let's bring it up. I'll bring it up for you guys. I'll tell you this right now. Takes a moment to load. All right, starts off with a patrol detachment, High Marshal Helbrecht, because I'm not crazy and I want that model so much.
Yeah.
So what do you guys reckon? Do you reckon the bare head or the helmet? I'm inclined to
helmet. The helmet looks.
Helmet.
I actually like the bare head in many situations. I get it. Yes, my Marine friends out there, I get it. Y'all don't like the helmetless options because going into battle without a helmet is ridiculous. I like it because it shows off the model itself. But
I'm sorry, Paul. You're -1 toughness without a helmet.
I understand that, but I want to say the other side of that is the Hellbreak model with that helm looks amazing.
So it just looks intimidating. It's brilliant.
It's beef.
Is your character not have a helmet? Well, 6s to wound are considered to be headshots and have a rend 4 now. But so yeah, starts with patrol, High Marshal Helbrecht. 10 assault intercessors, because I adore them. They're one of my favorite things, and the models I have for them are a passion project of mine.
Yep. They
also
get better
because I want to
with the upgrades.
I plan to give him the relic fist, the relic bearer fist, and it'll be quite good. A Primus Apothecary, because you're silly not to take it. 5 Assault Terminators with all Thunderhammer Storm Shield. I'm also going to be relic bearing up that sergeant as well. I've got a Vanguard detachment up next. This has a Primus Chappie on bike. He's going to be the Warlord, and he's going to get all the tricks and everything. I'm trying to make him a bit of a half buff monster and